It was the last day of school, and the hallways buzzed with the excited chatter of students eagerly anticipating summer break. As I cleaned out my locker, stuffing my backpack with old notebooks and worn-out pens, I couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Maybe it was the oppressive heat or the flickering lights in the corridor that made the shadows seem longer and darker than usual. "See you in September," Sarah called out, her voice echoing down the emptying hall as she waved goodbye. "Yeah, see you," I replied, forcing a smile. But something felt off. It was as if an invisible weight pressed on my chest, making it hard to breathe. With my locker finally empty, I headed towards the exit. The school felt unusually deserted, even for the last day. The occasional locker slamming or distant laugh did little to dispel the eerie silence that filled the spaces between. As I walked past the darkened classroom of room 213, I noticed the door was slightly ajar. Normally, I wouldn't have given it a second thought, but today was different. Compelled by curiosity and a sense of foreboding, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The classroom was empty, but it wasn't as I remembered. Desks were arranged haphazardly, chairs toppled over, and papers scattered the floor. The air felt thick, and the room was cloaked in shadows, despite the bright afternoon sun outside. A cold shiver ran down my spine when I saw the chalkboard. Scrawled across it in jagged, frantic letters was a single word: help. I stumbled back, my heart pounding. This had to be a prank, right? Just some senior messing around on their last day. But then I heard it. A faint, muffled sobbing coming from the back of the room. I turned, my eyes scanning the darkness. In the far corner, I saw her, a girl crouched behind a desk, her face buried in her knees. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked, my voice trembling. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with terror. She seemed familiar, but I couldn't place her. She didn't say a word, just pointed towards the closet at the back of the room. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run and get help. But I couldn't abandon her. Taking a deep breath, I walked towards the closet. As I approached, the sobbing grew louder, more desperate. My hand shook as I reached for the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a cramped, dark space. At first, I saw nothing unusual, just old textbooks and forgotten art supplies. But then I noticed a trap door in the floor, slightly ajar. The sobbing was coming from below. "Please help me," the girl whispered, her voice trembling. I knelt down and lifted the trap door. A narrow staircase descended into darkness. The sobbing was louder now, echoing up the steps. Steeling myself, I started down, the wooden steps creaking under my weight. The air grew colder, and a damp, musty smell filled my nose. At the bottom, I found myself in a small, dimly lit room. Old, yellowed newspaper clippings covered the walls, all detailing mysterious disappearances from the school over the past decades. In the center of the room was a single chair, and in that chair sat another girl, bound and gagged, her eyes wide with fear. I rushed over, untying her as quickly as I could. "It's okay. You're safe now," I whispered. But she shook her head, her eyes darting around the room. "No, you don't understand," she gasped as soon as the gag was off. "It's still here." A low growl rumbled from the shadows, and my blood ran cold. Slowly, I turned to face the darkness. Two glowing eyes stared back at me, filled with malice and hunger. The creature stepped into the dim light, a twisted, monstrous figure, its form constantly shifting and changing as if it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. "We have to go," I said, grabbing the girl's hand and pulling her towards the stairs. But the creature was faster. It lunged at us, its claws slashing through the air. I shoved the girl forward, urging her to run. Pain seared through my side as the creature's claws raked across my flesh. I stumbled but managed to stay on my feet. We raced up the stairs, the creature's growls echoing behind us. The girl from the classroom was gone, and the door to room 213 was closed. I threw it open, practically shoving the girl through. As soon as we were both out, I slammed the door shut and grabbed a chair, jamming it under the handle. We didn't stop running until we were outside. the bright sunlight a stark contrast to the darkness we'd escaped. I collapsed on the grass, clutching my bleeding side. The girl knelt beside me, her face pale and eyes wide with fear. "What was that?" she whispered. "I don't know," I replied, my voice shaky. "But we need to tell someone. We need to get help." She nodded, and together we made our way to the front of the school, where a few teachers and students still lingered. They looked at us with confusion and concern as we stumbled towards them. "Please, you have to believe us," I begged, as I tried to explain what had happened. But their skeptical looks told me they thought it was a prank or a delusion. In the end, it was the blood on my shirt and the terror in our eyes that convinced them to call the police. They searched the school thoroughly but found no trace of the creature or the hidden room. The girl and I were taken to the hospital, treated for our injuries, and questioned repeatedly. As summer began, I tried to move on, to forget the horrors of that last day. But every night I dreamt of those glowing eyes and the growls that haunted the shadows. I knew deep down that whatever was in room 213 was still there, waiting. And every now and then when I passed by the school, I could swear I heard a faint, muffled sobbing echoing from the empty halls.